taking something that was great and putting a modern twist on it and revamping it for the new era. That seems to be the way that everything's done at the moment, and that's where we're thinking here at GPFans Day as we bring you a special of the 5 tracks and Grand Prix events that we'd like to see returning to the F1 calendar. Now, there's no room in that calendar at the moment moving into the 2022 season, but you can stay up to date with everything that happens during the campaign by hitting the subscribe button down below and just following us here, and of course on Twitter and Instagram at GPFansGlobal. But for now, here are 5 circuits and race events that we want to see back in Formula 1 sometime soon. Number 1, Sepang, Malaysia. The fast home straight and back straight, separated by a tight final hairpin, Sepang was a track that boasted the combination of high-speed racing and tight, intricate corners. Last run in 2017, the Malaysian Grand Prix suffered from dwindling interest in the region of Formula 1 and high hosting fees, but the track, as a viewing pleasure, was phenomenal. The fast turn 5 and 6 down and round and up the hill before the more complex sections towards the end of the lap have the feeling of some of the more entertaining parts of the Shanghai International Circuit or even the Red Bull Ring in Austria, while the rogue element, depending on its position in the Grand Prix calendar, of tropical storms always loomed in the background. This is one race that would be exciting to see come back to Formula 1. Number 2, Hockenheim, Germany, 1992 to 2001 track. So obviously this wasn't a perfect circuit. The large forest section meant the track was difficult to provide proper security for, as shown by a track invader at the 2000 edition of the German Grand Prix. And as a viewing sensation for those in attendance, it wasn't ideal, with many of the overtaking moves taking place out in the chicanes of the woodland. But the contrast of roaring through said woodland before coming into that heaving complex stadium section was one that only really Spa can compare to, and the straight after Eau Rouge that we see year after year at the Belgium Grand Prix is very similar to the mind-blowing speed found in those outback sections of Hockenheim. The fact that it can be soaking conditions at one end of the circuit and bone dry elsewhere brings strategy and driver skill into play perhaps more than any other circuit. And if you want to be reminded of how exciting that can be, just think back to what happened at the end of the Russian Grand Prix in Sochi last year. Number 3, Argentina. This may be less about the racing and more about the excitement of another event in South America. Interlagos in Sao Paulo is one of the best racetracks on the calendar, and the atmosphere in Brazil is something very special indeed. So seeing if their arch rivals as a nation, Argentina, can finally top them in Formula 1 excitement standings would be a sight to behold. Motor racing is still very popular in the country, but the country would need a circuit to match that intensity, something it doesn't have yet to an F1 standard. The old Oscar Alfredo Galvarez track was redesigned for the 1995-98 editions of the race, but the tight, twisty circuit provided few overtaking opportunities. Maybe another revamp would be needed to get this spectacle back, but the spectacle alone potentially could make it one that we now really need to see on the Formula 1 calendar. Number 4, Adelaide, Australia. Melbourne has a great Grand Prix circuit, if we ever see it again, but Adelaide still has many fond memories from motor racing fans who can think back to that track. It was a track that saw the final race win of Ayrton Senna's career. It bore witness to multiple world title deciders, including the controversy of that first Michael Schumacher championship. Steeped in history is a mild way of describing the street circuit. The 90-degree bends of turns 4, 5 and 6 and the sharp turn 16 before hitting the straight gave this track a unique plan and plenty of places to overtake. Unlike Monaco or perhaps the newly introduced Jeddah street circuit in Saudi Arabia, Adelaide had enough space on track for wheel-to-wheel racing, unless of course the pair were Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher, but it still also had the pitfalls of the barriers of any street circuit. Australia has struggled to host one Grand Prix during these difficult times, and a second in the country would maybe be overkill, but what about perhaps a rotation between the two cities? Not a bad idea. Number 5, Long Beach, the United States. From 1976 to 1983, Long Beach, California played host to Formula 1. And if the sport really wants to do a cross-country triple header with Miami and Austin already on the calendar, then why not finish back at this historic track? A Monaco Grand Prix in the Southern California sunshine was the idea around the location of the race back in the day, and the street circuit, much like Adelaide, gave us plenty of side-by-side racing with its open roads. The Le Gasommer hairpin at turn 5 was like driving around the top of a needle, so sharp it was, while the twisting sections of turns 19 to 13 would test any driver's skill and mettle. With the long shoreline drive straight for DRS and the complexities of the track layout and the barriers of a street circuit, it would be a fine finishing point for a USA triple header in a Formula 1 season. Miami has its car park circuit, followed by Austin's more traditional track, and finishing on the beach of the West Coast, well, I say, bring it on. So which circuits would you like to see coming back to the Formula 1 calendar? Could be a country, a host venue, a host city, or perhaps a specific circuit. Let us know in the comments section below. Of course, there's not much space for any more tracks on the Formula 1 calendar with the busy schedule coming up in 2022. But of course, you can follow all of the action in the new season by hitting the subscribe button down below and staying with us here at GPFans.